My earliest childhood memories begin with the White Mansion on Brattle Street. It was the early 1990s, in the affluent suburbs of Cambridge, Massachusetts. The street was lined with old money families, and we, the Allens, were among them. My father Walt ran the city's most prestigious law firm, and my mother Barbara was a brilliant socialite and philanthropist who had graduated from an elite university. Our neighbors referred to us as the perfect upper-class family. We attended church on Sundays, Mother hosted monthly charity events, and Father frequently appeared in newspapers as a prominent figure in the legal community. But the truth was different. Behind those imposing front doors, another face lurked in the shadows. Late at night, angry shouts would escape from Father's study. Martha, our housekeeper, whispered to me that they were loan sharks collecting gambling debts. $2 million, she said. At 8 years old, I couldn't comprehend the magnitude of that sum. Mother was a perfectionist to a fault. She always dressed in the latest designer brands and hosted lavish parties, and the bills only pushed Father further into despair. At home, the atmosphere would shift with Mother's mood swings. If something displeased her, plates would fly and shouts would echo through the house. In all of this, the kitchen was my only sanctuary. I'd heard that my grandmother Haley was an excellent cook. Though she passed away when I was 4, her recipe book remains my treasure to this day. Martha, our housekeeper, would secretly teach me how to cook. "Miss, watch how I beat these eggs." "Yes, Martha." The kitchen was always warm, bathed in gentle light. But Mother strongly disapproved of my interest in cooking. "Cooking is for the lower classes. You're a lady of the Allen bloodline." I was a top student at school, but even that wasn't enough at home. Mother's constant refrain was "You're our shame." Father called me a disgrace to the Allen name. I can't remember ever feeling loved. Catering and takeout were the norm. I never saw Mother cook. As a star of high society, she considered it beneath her to step foot in the kitchen. I secretly harbored a small dream. Someday, I wanted to make someone happy with food I had prepared with my own hands. Then came that fateful day. It was an unusually cold evening in late October. I was in the kitchen with Martha, baking cinnamon cookies, when suddenly angry shouts erupted from Father's study. The second-floor study, usually Father's quiet workspace filled with heavy furniture, was anything but quiet that night. "Allen. The deadline's passed. I won't wait any longer. Just one more week. I'll pay you back. I promise. Next time I'm bringing the police. You know what's at stake." Heavy footsteps, then the violent slam of a door. Martha gently embraced my shoulders. Her touch carried the reassuring comfort of a housekeeper with 20 years of experience. The vanilla and cinnamon scents wafting through the kitchen suddenly gave way to tension. "Miss, you'd better read in your room tonight. Here, take these with you." She handed me warm milk and cookies that were still slightly warm. But I had important preparations for the next day, Mother's annual charity event. I had secretly planned to serve my cookies. Everyone will surely love them, I thought. In my childhood innocence, I had no idea what a grave mistake this would be. That night, I stopped in my tracks at the sound of voices leaking from my parents' bedroom. "This is the limit, Walt. Your gambling has drained our savings completely." "I know. But this next race is a sure thing. I'll win it all back." "That's what you always say." "There must be another way." The next morning, at the Charles Hotel's banquet room in Harvard Square, Mother greeted guests one after another, dressed in her latest Chanel suit with an elegant pearl necklace. It was a fundraiser for the Boston Museum of Art's new children's program. Society's elite arrived in their luxury cars at the hotel's main entrance. I quietly opened the door, holding my homemade cookies. A silver tray lined with carefully baked heart-shaped cookies. Cookies made exactly according to grandmother's recipe. Everyone, here are today's. That's when it happened. Mother's thin fingers sliced through the air, striking my right cheek hard. The party fell silent. The silver tray crashed onto the marble floor, cookies shattering pathetically. I heard small gasps. "You worthless, shameless child. Who gave you permission to do this? How dare you serve such vulgar things?" Mother's voice echoed through the high-ceilinged banquet room. Her socialite lady's mask had fallen away in an instant. The guests awkwardly averted their eyes, while Father was at the far end of the bar counter, already nursing what looked like a heavy glass of whiskey. My cheek burned with pain. But my heart hurt even more. Looking at the scattered cookies on the floor, I remembered grandmother's gentle smile. That afternoon, when we returned to our mansion, there was an unfamiliar middle-aged man in a suit in the reception room. Gray suit, blue tie. A law firm badge gleamed on his lapel. "Mr. and Mrs. Allen, I have important news regarding your daughter. We've made a new discovery concerning Mrs. Haley's will." I listened with bated breath from behind the stairs. Grandmother had left me an inheritance. I would inherit her entire estate when I turned 21. My parents' expressions gradually hardened. Father's hands trembled, and Mother's lips pressed into a thin line. The next afternoon, Father surprisingly smiled kindly and invited me for a drive. He said he would buy me a new book. Mother came along too. The car took unfamiliar roads and eventually arrived at an old wooden bridge on the outskirts of town. It crossed a tributary of the Charles River, in a deserted area. The red-painted railing was peeling and weathered. "Let's stop and look at the view." Father's voice trembled slightly. The evening sky was beginning to turn red. We stopped in the middle of the bridge. The October wind coldly caressed my cheeks. "Rebecca. I'm sorry, but this is the best solution." Father's large hand pushed against my back. Mother watched with cold eyes, turning her face away as she pulled up the collar of her expensive coat. In that moment, I felt strangely calm. More than fear, a deep sadness filled my chest. Looking up at the sky over the bridge railing, I saw clouds tinted by the sunset. Orange light reflected off the water's surface. Suddenly, I remembered the scent of grandmother's apple pie. The warm kitchen. Her gentle voice. Memories of lost happiness. My dream will never come true. In that instant, my body became weightless. Falling, cutting through the cold wind. Everything moved in slow motion. The sky reflected in the water's surface was as vivid as an impressionist painting. My red coat fluttered in the wind. The last thing I heard was Mother's cold voice from the bridge. "Come, let's go." No one saw us. Cold water enveloped my body. But strangely, I wasn't afraid. Rather, I felt liberated from a lifetime of burdens. As consciousness faded, the sunset light piercing the water's surface shone beautifully, like a gateway to heaven. This scene would appear in my dreams many times afterward. And then my life changed dramatically, in ways neither I nor anyone else could have predicted. As consciousness was fading in the cold water, I suddenly heard splashing sounds and voices. "Mariel. Shine the flashlight here. There, Jackson. I can see a red coat. Strong hands grabbed me and pulled me to the surface. Though my consciousness was hazy, I remember the sensation of being wrapped in a warm blanket and a kind woman's voice. Poor thing. She's freezing. Jackson, hurry to Mount Auburn Hospital. When I opened my eyes, I was in a pristine white hospital room. Jackson Robinson, a large man with kind eyes, was reading a book by my bedside. Hey, you're awake. Mariel, she's up. Turning at his voice was his wife Mariel, wearing a warm smile. She held a thermos of homemade soup. Did you sleep well? I brought some special chicken soup. The couple who saved me had unexpected backgrounds. Jackson was formerly a 3-star chef in Paris, now running a small bistro called Le Petit Jardin in Cambridge. Mariel had a career as a top pastry chef and now teaches baking at Bunker Hill Community College. Rebecca, we found this in your coat pocket. Mariel handed me a wrinkled, wet piece of paper. It was grandmother's apple pie recipe. 2 months of hospitalization followed. My parents vanished, and the police tried to write it off as an unfortunate accident. But the Robinsons visited my hospital room every day, encouraging me with stories about cooking. Mariel, look at this child's eyes. They hold a passion for cooking. Yes, Jackson. I can see it too. I later learned that they had struggled with infertility for years. Teaching cooking to children who came to their bistro had helped ease that loneliness. As my discharge approached, they made an important decision. After meeting with the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families, they submitted adoption papers. Rebecca, if you'd like, would you become our daughter? Jackson's voice trembled slightly. Mariel held my hand with tears in her eyes. Let's cook together. Let us nurture your talent. Outside the window, spring sunlight warmly illuminated Boston's cityscape. It was a gentle light that hinted at the beginning of a new life. This was the start of my second life. The moment I found my true family, even without blood ties. A new bond was about to form through cooking. Life with the Robinsons was like entering a different world. Every morning at 5 a.m., I'd wake to Jackson's bonjour. Outside the window, Cambridge was still dark, its streets wrapped in the slightly purple light of pre-dawn. Well, another day begins. Didn't forget your apron, did you? Every morning before starting prep work at the bistro, Jackson would always brew me a cup of fragrant coffee in a French press. The citrus notes within the bitterness became my daily signal to begin. Rebecca, let's start with how to hold a knife. Basics are crucial. Watch how I grip it. Pinch the base of the blade between your thumb and forefinger. Jackson was a patient teacher. He had me practice mincing onions countless times and taught me how to make bouillon from scratch. The small kitchen at Le Petit Jardin became my classroom. Fresh ingredients always lined the stainless steel sink, and copper pots gleamed in the morning sun. Sauce is the soul of cooking. Today we'll start with bechamel. Smell the butter and flour. This toasty aroma is the sign of perfect heat. Weekend afternoons were Mariel's lessons. In Bunker Hill Community College's pastry kitchen, she taught me everything from basics to advanced techniques. The practice kitchen, lined with new ovens, was always filled with sweet aromas. Learn to feel the temperature of the dough with your hands. A pastry chef is also a scientist. Just 1 degree difference in butter temperature can completely change the texture. Mariel's instruction was precise and delicate. Folding croissant dough into multiple layers, carefully checking macaron temperatures. Her skills were honed in Paris's finest pâtisseries. At age 12, I was allowed to put my first dessert menu item at the bistro. Rebecca's apple tart tatin was grandmother's recipe evolved through Mariel's techniques. The elegant sweetness of caramelized apples atop crispy pastry. When the Boston Globe's food critic praised it as a brilliant fusion of tradition and innovation, I was moved to tears. At 15, I entered the National Junior Chef Competition. In the regional preliminaries, I enchanted the judges with homemade à l'américaine using fresh lobster. In the finals, I presented a modern bouillabaisse, a fusion of local seafood and traditional French cooking methods. When I won, Jackson shed large tears, and Mariel held me tight. "You are our pride, Rebecca." In high school, a new challenge began, establishing the cooking club. It started with just 3 members. We borrowed the home economics room and experimented with new recipes after school like scientists. Soon, word spread, and within a year, membership grew to over 20. Catering for charity events became an important club activity. Christmas dinner at the local homeless shelter, standing buffets at cancer patient support charity auctions. Making people happy through food, it was what I had dreamed of since childhood. During these fulfilling days, a fateful encounter occurred. Nadine was an elegant woman in her 60s, an old friend of the Robinsons. I vividly remember the day we first met. She appeared at the bistro wearing a Chanel tweed suit adorned with a pearl necklace. "Ah, so you're the Rebecca I've heard so much about." Nadine took one bite of my madeleines and wore a nostalgic expression. "Just like Haley's taste. That delicate lemon fragrance, with just a touch of orange peel." I looked up in surprise at those words. She knew grandmother's recipe. By this time, Jackson and Mariel had actually realized who I was. The techniques I used in my cooking, especially in desserts, matched exactly those of their former regular customer, my grandmother. They had chosen to silently watch over me, letting me find my own path with my own strength. As time passed, Nadine became increasingly supportive. When I wanted to start a cooking club at school, she negotiated with the administration. When new cooking equipment was needed, she quietly provided it. When we were tasked with catering charity events, she supported us behind the scenes. "You have a special talent. You should develop it further. Have you considered training in France?" Then, one rainy afternoon after the bistro closed, Nadine made an important confession. "Actually, I was your grandmother Haley's best friend. We had a 40-year friendship." She took out an old photograph. It showed a young grandmother and Nadine, smiling at a Paris cafe. "Haley knew about your talent. That's why she left the inheritance for your future. I've been planning for 20 years to fulfill her wishes. But why until now? I was waiting for the right time. I wanted to see you develop your passion for cooking through your own strength." Nadine's support continued, and my dreams gradually took shape. Warm days with the Robinson family. Grandmother's wishes. Nadine's support. Everything was building my future. Daily ingredient sourcing, new menu development, conversations with customers, each experience became irreplaceable. I was absorbed every day in thinking about the next day's special menu. What dish could I create with fresh scallops and seasonal vegetables? Jackson and Mariel proudly watched over me as I stood in the kitchen. It was autumn of my second year of high school, when I was 17. That day too, Jackson and Mariel had gone to the morning farmer's market for supplies. Unusually, they went together. Rebecca, we'll prepare a special dinner tonight. Let's think about new menu items for the 30th anniversary party. Mariel's last smile remains burned in my memory. The phone rang 2 hours later. A call from Mass General Hospital. Collision with a large truck. Terror enveloped my entire body, threatening to stop my heart. Am I losing my family again? When I rushed to the hospital, it was already too late. They said both died instantly. The reality of losing my beloved adoptive parents in an instant threatened to crush me. But it was different from when I was 8. This time, I had warm memories. Memories of love supported me. After the funeral, Nadine became my support. Don't close Le Petit Jardin. No, but I want you to walk your own path in a new place. At Nadine's suggestion, I decided to study at a prestigious culinary school in France. Grandmother's $5 million trust fund. The inheritance rights I would receive at 21. And the Robinsons' life insurance. Everything became a signpost toward my dream. Study in Paris. Then when you return, open your own restaurant. Even in my grief, I could see new hope. With everything Jackson and Mariel taught me in my heart, I decided to look forward. Their love would live on in me forever. After completing my training in Paris, at age 28, I opened at Le Jardin in Boston's Beacon Hill district. The location was a 19th-century brownstone facing a street where I used to walk with my family. The red brick exterior and elegant latticed windows symbolized the harmony between tradition and innovation. The renovation of the old building took over a year, preserving the classic exterior while updating the interior with the latest equipment. I scattered memories of Jackson and Mariel throughout the restaurant's interior. At the entrance, the brass sign from Le Petit Jardin, its lettering deepened with age, reflects warm light. The wine cellar houses Jackson's cherished vintage wines, including a 1982 Bordeaux discovered at a small French farm, now worth over 100 times its original value. Mariel's beloved copper molds decorate the dessert counter, and the pastry corner features desserts based on her recipes. On the main dining room wall hangs Grandmother Haley's watercolor, a Paris cafe scene that Nadine had carefully preserved. Every element expresses gratitude and respect for the people who shaped my life. 3 years after opening, we earned a Michelin star, and reservations became backed up 6 months in advance. The New York Times praised Le Jardin as a new horizon in traditional French cuisine, while the Boston Globe ran a feature titled A Culinary Palace Woven from Lost Family Tales. My signature dish, Homage à Jackson, is based on my adoptive father's teachings with a contemporary interpretation. The main ingredient, Maine lobster, was his beloved ingredient. The sauce uses bouillon made with his direct techniques. The dessert menus, Mariel's memory, is an arrangement of her tart tatin. Using pears instead of apples and caramelizing them with maple syrup represents a modern approach. Every night as I prepare this dessert, I remember her gentle smile. It was a Friday evening like any other. In the full restaurant, I was directing service from the kitchen. While putting final touches on each plate of foie gras pole and blanquette de veau, I moved in perfect sync with my staff. Warm up the sauce for table 3 a bit more. Hurry with the garnish for table 5. Then the head waiter rushed over with an unusually tense expression. Chef, please look at table 7. From the glass-walled kitchen, I turned my gaze to the dining room. In that moment, time seemed to stop. My parents, whom I hadn't seen in 20 years. Father Walt's hair had turned white, his shoulders slightly hunched. His once perfect posture now somewhat stooped. Mother Barbara's face was deeply lined, her former beauty faded. They had probably come as regulars of high society to visit the talked-about restaurant. My hands trembled. I couldn't even feel the pain when hot sauce dripped onto the back of my hand. My throat went dry, my vision distorted. The memory from when I was 8 flashed back vividly. The cold wind, the view from the bridge, the sunset reflected in the water's surface. "Chef, are you all right?" the sous chef asked worriedly. "Yes, no problem." I took a deep breath. "Chef, the guests at table 7 would like to meet with the owner." Taking another deep breath to compose myself, I left the kitchen. My white chef's coat gleamed in the chandelier light. Different from the red coat I wore 20 years ago on that bridge. I'm no longer the helpless child who could be pushed off a bridge. I'm now the owner chef of a fine restaurant. A respected culinary artist. My heels echoed on the marble floor. Just 15 steps to my parents' table. Each step contained 20 years of time. I am the owner. Silence enveloped the dining room. The sound of father's knife scraping his plate. Mother's $1,000 Chateau Lafite wine glass slipped from her hand, the deep red liquid staining the white tablecloth. Like my blood from 20 years ago. "Rebecca?" Mother's voice trembled. Father's face turned pale. I straightened my back and looked down at them with the same cold gaze they once gave me. "Yes, your daughter whom you pushed off the bridge that day. Remember? The wooden bridge over the Charles River tributary. At dusk. In a deserted place." Conversation in the restaurant stopped. Whispers from neighboring tables. I continued. "Welcome. Tonight's special menu is Revenge à la Maison, Homestyle Revenge. Please savor it slowly. I've prepared something special for dessert." My parents' expressions contorted with fear. Now they were experiencing the terror I felt 20 years ago. And this was just the beginning of the end. The evidence Nadine had gathered over 20 years had been waiting for this moment. I smiled gracefully. "Take your time. It's going to be a very special night." That evening's events would send shockwaves through Boston's social circles. The police arrived at Le Jardin about an hour after my reunion with my parents. Nadine had prepared for this moment for 20 years. The evidence she presented perfectly proved my parents' crimes. From the truth about grandmother Haley's death to the plot to murder me. Everything came to light. "Walt Allen, Barbara Allen. You are under arrest for attempted murder." Father showed no resistance, just hung his head. Mother became hysterical, screaming, "I had nothing to do with it, it was all his idea." The elegant socialite was nowhere to be seen. The next day, the Boston Globe's front page headline read, "Le Jardin owner chef's shocking past, 20-year-old attempted murder by successful business couple revealed." It became a major scandal that shook high society. Planned crime targeting Haley Allen's estate. Couple pushed own daughter off bridge. $2 million gambling debt as motive? The media covered the story day after day. However, I chose a different path. "Rebecca, we need your testimony." I told the police everything. But I didn't utter a single word of hatred. I am already happy enough. I was blessed with a true family in Jackson, Mariel, and Nadine, and I was able to fulfill my dreams. That's enough for me. At the trial, my parents were sentenced to 10 years in prison. But my life was moving forward. Le Jardin earned its second Michelin star. Reservations became backed up for a year. I also began teaching at culinary school. I share with future chefs the possibilities of love and healing through food. The sparkle in my students' eyes reminds me of myself from long ago. Nadine still comes to the restaurant every Friday. She is my new family and a precious link to grandmother Haley. Haley would be so proud of you. I nodded at her words. 3 special dishes still appear on Le Jardin's menu. Homage to Jackson, Mariel's memory, and Haley's legacy. Each dish contains my gratitude to the people who raised me. Every day, various people visit the restaurant. Family celebrations, reunions with friends, important promises. Now, I feel the joy of being able to be part of special moments in people's lives through my cooking. This is true revenge. The best way to repay the kindness of those I loved. I practice daily the words Jackson and Mariel left me. Cooking is love. Nothing more, nothing less. Outside the window, spring sunlight bathed Boston's streets as a new season was about to begin.